coding test, which is a test that says I can do basic competencies in my language arts, math, history, the science. And so everybody, the goal in the state of Virginia is for our students to all be able to pass the SOL test. A C.T.E completer is a student that's gone through a sequence of C.T.E courses. For instance, Electricity 1 and Electricity 2. So the average SOL score pass rate for math in the state of Virginia is in the 70s. If you look at a C.T.E completer in Henrico County, their average end of the course math SOL test score, we last year were at 99%.
Wow.
Now I want to know something. How in heaven's name did you know how we use the Pythagorean theorem in carpentry? Were you a carpenter at one time?
Well, I'm kind of one of those people. I do a little bit of all of it by going through the apprenticeship program. I mean, if you start bending a piece of pipe as an electrician, you've got to be able to anticipate the length of the pipe, and when I put 3 bends in it, where am I going to end up? So, I mean, it's understanding. What we try to do is look at every task we teach in any of our C.T.E classes, and how do we make it, how do we bring the math, English, and social studies, science, how do we make it all real for students?
Wonderful. All right, Mac, we understand that you have a house building program and that your students are gearing up to start their 19th house project. Tell us a little bit about that, won't you?
Well, we actually, as a carpenter or electrician, you teach the skill set of building a house. And most carpentry programs, they might build a wall section in a classroom, and then they tear it down. The next class comes in, they do the same thing. We wanted to make the classroom a real-world learning environment.
Wow.
So we started a foundation, and we actually build houses and sell them on the open market with our foundation funding the activities. And it's really taken off and just been a huge win for our students. Now, we intentionally take 2 years to build a house, and I'll explain why.
Well, so do we. But that's a different story. Go ahead.
We want our students to, go from the very breaking the ground to putting the sod in at the end of the day over that 2-year period. And so the 2 years that they're with us, the first-year students are going to do all the rough ends, and then those same students are going to come back the next year and do all the trim outs. And at the end of the day, their classroom, their learning project is that real-world house. And, what's really neat about this, we have to get them inspected and all, just like every other builder. And the inspectors love what we do, because if a student, let's say, cuts a crippled stud, an eighth of an inch or a quarter of an inch too short, a lot of contractors may just go ahead and nail it in, and nobody will ever see it once the drywall covers it up. We're going to have them pull it out, and they're going to do it right, because we want those students to learn the right way to build a house. So when they walk out, they are experienced carpenters, experienced electricians, experienced plumbers. They have the skill set to be successful for a contractor when they're hired.
Wow.
Awesome. So are there other C.T.E programs in other parts of the country, Mac?
Oh, yeah. Doing house building programs?
Yeah. I think that people listening, especially our pro audience, will want to reach out to find youngsters who have an interest in getting into the trades that they can employ, because there is such a labor shortage.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if other school divisions, I know in our area, we're probably one of the few that do an actual real-world house building program. Mm-hmm. But the skills that are taught in all of the C.T.E programs should be, preparing students for that world of work. And that's where, the business partners can really help. We're fortunate in Henrico County. We have a lot of very unique opportunities and programs like this that, give our kids a jump start. But, there's no reason contractors around the country can't, capitalize on what we're doing and have students come out to their job site and do the same thing.
Awesome. Well, we're at the end of the road. And that means it's the time where we ask our guests, Mac, to share 3 points for success for our pro listeners. And now it's your turn.
Well, the thing of it is, when our kids graduate in Henrico County, we want them to have a strong educational background, not just the academics part. So often school systems get caught up in, they're great readers, they're great writers. But I asked people all the time, when I graduated, we had to do a research paper in the 11th grade. And I would ask people, how many people did a research paper? And, most people will raise their hand and say, what did you do it on? And very few, probably 95% of the audience will never remember what they wrote the paper on. So imagine if you love cars and you could write that research paper on the development of the 302 Boss over just the standard 302 Ford engine. Imagine you would be able to sit here and quote that paper because it had meaning to you. So we want to make our education in Henrico relevant and rigorous at the same time. That's the key. Also, it's about changing perceptions of career and technical education. Just because you decide not to go to college right after high school, that's probably a very smart decision in today's economy, because there's a lot of companies that will pay for you to go to college and get the exact training you're going to need when you need it. And it, once again, has relevance, and you will be much more successful if there's a purpose for moving on to that post-secondary training. And I think the third part, we're all in this together. Everybody is quick to criticize schools that we're not preparing students to enter the world of work. But it's got to be a partnership. We got to do this together. And I like to think of partnerships as a handshake, not a handout, because so often schools will call up a company and say, hey, I need 500 2x4s. And that's the extent of the partnership. What I've found, it works a whole lot better if you invite the company in and show them what you're doing. All of a sudden, the next thing you know, the company's going to say, hey, I've got 500 2x4s. Could you use these? And it really changes the dynamics. And so it creates opportunities like internships and job shadowing and apprenticeships for our students to really have that career plan developed before they graduate.
Wonderful.
So I guess that would be my 3 points.
Our thanks to Mac Beaton, Director of Career and Technical Education for the Henrico County Public Schools, for joining us for this episode of CareyBrosPros. You can learn more about them and their services online at henricocte.com. That's HENRICOCTE.com. There's no www.
But remember, you can always find our guest information as well as additional podcasts, videos, and articles at our website. It's CareyBrosPros.
Okay, everybody, loosen up those tool belts and relax. It's time for a quick bro tip from the Carey brothers.
Back in the day, a timesheet for a remodeling construction worker was nothing more than a pre-printed paper form that was completed with a pencil or a pen. Employees were on the honor system when it came to recording their time. In addition to overall time, many remodelers perform several different trades, quote-unquote, in-house, such as foundations, carpentry, plumbing, electrical, etc. This makes completing a timesheet even more complex. To properly job cost a project, every hour of every day must be tied to a specific type of work. In our experience, remodel workmen often fudged on total hours worked and what category of work was accomplished as well. Larger companies have solved this problem with a digital timesheet system wherein the employee enters his hours into an app on his smartphone. So what's so different about this? Well, what is especially interesting about a digital timesheet system is the added feature of live geo-tracking. For example, if an employee clocks out more than 100 yards away from the job site, a warning is sent to the timesheet system. The system we have is so accurate, we can tell how often a worker goes from his point of work to his pickup truck. Showing the crew how accurately geo-tracking works is a real head-turner. Workers who want to keep their job suddenly spend more time working than sitting. Wasted time is substantially reduced. Another example, when the crew sits in one spot on break, the system knows it. 15-minute breaks that used to last for a half hour are now back to 15 minutes. There definitely is a learning curve for the office and the crew when a digital timekeeper is first installed. But job cost accounting is so much more accurate. Also, overall hours reported can't be fudged. I love it.
Well, that's our podcast for today. Thanks for listening to this edition of CareyBrosPros, the podcast for construction professionals by construction professionals. Want more? Check out CareyBrosPros.com. You'll find articles and videos to help make your business a success.